Hello, my name is Maddie McQuaid, and this is my final project. Today I will focus on the database Immigration. This dataset relates directly to my major of National Security and Foreign Affairs because immigration is viewed as a national security issue. Many Americans consider immigration to be detrimental to our society. I would disagree. America is what it is today because of our strong background of immigration and freedom. Abstraction. Abstraction is a set of information that is important to a stakeholder about a specific real-world entity without unnecessary or redundant information. The dataset describes the immigration rates of foreign nationals to the United States of America over time. The data has a wide range of statistics including naturalizations, permanent citizens, enforcement data, refugees, and non-immigrant admission. The data is per year from 2006 to 2014. The most used were enforcement and refugees for this project. These two datasets are the most pertinent because they give insight into the ever-changing demographic of the population of the United States of America. These dictionaries within the dataset give away a great deal of information because they show not only how many people are entering the country without permission, but how many people are seeking a safer home through the refugee data. This information is very useful for developing trends which can allow the U.S. government to figure out the best way to settle this many refugees safely within the country. Immigration Dataset Map. The main dictionaries I accessed were refugees and enforcement. The keys offered within the dataset housed these integers, which allowed the analysis of immigrants entering the United States as both illegal immigrants and legal immigrants, as well as refugees seeking refuge. I also used country and year to further narrow down the information that I wanted to use for my visualizations. It allowed me to properly get an idea of the trends of immigration from specified countries that I wish to focus on. Questions to be answered through visualization. How do the trends of criminal immigration attempts from Mexico and Syria to the United States compare? What is the trend of criminal immigration attempts from Syria to the U.S.? Is there a relationship between arrived and affirmed refugees from Syria to the United States? These questions relate to what the masses perceive to be the biggest threats to the security of our nation today. I wanted to explore these questions to get a handle on how worried Americans should be about immigration. Limitations. The dataset is only of immigrations to the U.S. in roughly the past 10 years. It's really hard to determine full trends without more years of data. It lacks data for permanent illegal residences to counter the data on permanent legal residences. There isn't data on immigration totals. Because there isn't a way to view total immigration with this dataset, it's impossible to fully understand the scale of immigrants entering the United States each year. This dataset generally doesn't allow for many counters for each category, such as permanent legal residences having permanent illegal residences, to understand the scope of this. The scale of this dataset is also small to make proper data trends. If the data were to have been, say, from the past 100 years, it would give a more accurate representation of the trends. Visualization 1. How do the trends of criminal immigration attempts from Mexico and Syria to the United States compare? These lines show the trends of immigrants illegally entering the country from both Mexico and Syria. Now, it may appear to be an error that the line labeled as Syria appears to be straight, but it actually is that way because the scale between the illegal immigration from Mexico is on a completely different magnitude from that of Syria. On the next slide, I'll discuss the data from Syria a bit more. What this graph does show about Mexico is that at its peak, nearly 14,000 illegal immigrants were apprehended. Visualization 2. What is the trend of criminal immigration attempts from Syria to the U.S.? This line plot shows what couldn't be seen on the other visualization with Mexico. There has been an overall downward trend of illegal immigration from Syria. In contrast to the graph relating to Mexico, there are far fewer cases of illegal immigration from Syria, and they have overall been decreasing over the course of this scale, although there was a large peak in 2010. Visualization 3. Is there a relationship between arrived and affirmed refugees from Syria to the United States? The relationship described by this plot shows that as more refugees are considered arrived, more are considered affirmed in their status as a protected refugee. The difference between affirmed refugees and arrived refugees is that affirmed refugees have recognition and documentation from the United States government to remain in the country, but arrived refugees are awaiting whether or not they'll be admitted to the country. This graph shows that the more arrived refugees there are, that the more affirmed there are, which is good for people escaping turmoil at home and finding a place to settle in the United States. On my honor, I have neither given nor received unauthorized assistance on this assignment. Thank you for listening.